In tonight's stories, two journeys leave the body and never come back the same. A teenager masters astral projection, only to find two intruders rifling through his drawers while his body lies helpless in bed. And a couple on a road trip takes the wrong turn into Maize, a town that feeds its cornfields with human flesh. Two tales of separation from the body, from the road, and from any hope of getting home. Welcome to Nightmare Proof, where true horror comes alive. Here, you'll hear real stories of the strange, the disturbing, and the unexplainable. Turn down the lights, get comfortable, and prepare to face the darkness. Story 1. Projection. Devin felt thrilled and amazed with himself. This is the furthest he's gone. He's looking at himself through his bedroom window on the 3rd floor of his apartment building. He still hasn't gotten used to the sight or the feeling of the tether connecting the navels of his physical and spiritual bodies. Devin placed his translucent hands over his belly and shuddered, then watched his physical body do the same. It's a few minutes before 9 p.m. Devon knows his mom will be home around 11 p.m. He decides to go further, see Mario at his place. Devin considers this. It would freak Mario out at school tomorrow if he knew exactly what Mario was doing. So, Devin decides to try and float over to Mario's. Imagining that he was filling his spiritual lungs with air, Devin rehearsed what he had read on the forums. You must believe you control your spirit, weightless yet alive. I am alive. I am in control. He exhaled. Remembering to breath was important. He had read that if he had stopped while in this form, his real body would also stop breathing. Willing his way down to the city streets, Devin could hardly contain his excitement. Feeling his spiritual cheeks strain from the smile he knew his real body shared with him. I'm really doing it, he thought. Devin could see the cracks in the concrete through his astral feet. Mario's place was only around the corner. Making his way down the street, cars would pass by, their headlights piercing Devin's body. Amazed that he could feel the warmth of the lights from the sidewalk through his astral self. So distracted by this, he didn't notice the two men in hoodies, one black and one gray. He just walked through the gray one. That one shivered. It's too warm to be wearing a hoodie. Devin made note of this, but wasn't too concerned. Shady people aren't unusual around here, and it's not like they could do anything to him right now. Standing in front of another gray apartment building on 48th Street, Devin rehearsed his mantra, I am alive. I am in control. Extending his hand through the gray bricks, then stepping through the wall in front of him. Devin isn't fully through the wall before he can see Mario, shirtless in shorts on the couch watching WWE's Raw, while his younger brother Panchito sat on the floor, also shirtless. Both totally unaware of their guest. Judging by the Corona in Mario's hand, his parentals aren't home either. Probably also working. Mario and Panchito jump up, Mario's beer sloshing up and spilling through the bottleneck. Boyaka, boyaka, SIXONENINE, baby. Their voices rang in manly harmony. Thud, thud, thud. Sorry, Mrs. Sanchez, Mario responded. Devin watched amused with the scene. Mario was bold but polite, and he definitely does not believe this brujeria shit, but maybe he would change his mind once his Monday Night Raw activities were called out. Devin could feel his ears twitch. Something was happening. Maybe Mom was home early. Getting back was always easier than going away from his body. Devin turned away from Mario's living room and grabbed the cord by his navel and began pulling. He could feel the cord sort of wind inside of his body, never actually feeling full, but the sensation of something gently entering his body was there. Something Devin would be glad not to feel once he got good enough at this. Making his way up toward his bedroom window, Devin stopped as soon as he could see into his room. Someone was in his room, looking through his dresser, the man in the gray hoodie. Fuck! What do I do? Devin contemplates what to do. He wants to wake up and stop the man, but if the other one is there too, they could kill him. Most likely would. He looked at the alarm clock next his bed. 9:34 p.m. Good. Mom won't be home soon. Just then, the man in the black hoodie comes in, something in his hand. Shit. Devin phases through the window. What you find? Shh. The man in the gray hoodie raises a finger and points toward Devon's physical body. Without hesitation, the man in the black hoodie raised a black pistol toward Devon. The man in gray puts his hand on the man in black's arm. Nah, he ain't up. Just get what you can and go. What if he do wake up? Might as well cap now. Devon's body stirs, reacting to the noise. The man in black cocks the hammer. The man in gray pushes his arm down, stepping in front of him now. Nah, man, he just a kid. Come on. The man in black sighs, clicking the safety back on. Come on, then. The man in gray grabs some shoes from by the door as he leaves. Devon waits before entering his body, making sure the men leave before he wakes up. He shoots upright in his bed, back in his physical body. Panting, he can feel the blood leaking from his nose. Devon rushes to get up, but falls as he readjusts to his real body. Stumbling toward the kitchen, using the walls in the hallway to support himself, he can see his front door hanging open. He reaches the kitchen and grabs the phone off the wall. Pulling himself up to lean on the counter, he dials 911 and makes the call. Story 2. My partner and I were lured into an massive corn maze to appease an ancient deity. Corn maze. The tractor pulled into the shed. Farmer Dan closed the door with a wince. It had been such a long night, and he was in dire need of a shower. Who knows, maybe Sally would take pity on him and throw him a fuck. A man could dream. The sun crested on the horizon, illuminating a sprawling corn maze, which Farmer Dan had meticulously first planted the corn in the patterns he wanted for his annual maze. Once the patterns were in place and fully grown, Dan would go in after and trim them up. Farmer Dan had heard of these new ways to make the mazes involving GPS, but he was old and set in his ways. Besides, he never heard any complaints from his hundreds of customers. This was shaping up to be another fantastic year. Before walking back to his modest white and blue house, Farmer Dan put the final touches on his roadside attraction. He nailed the sign into the soft earth and waved at the car passing him on the road. The driver waved back. They all waved back, and they all visited, and that's what Farmer Dan loved. Corn maze. Best in the world. All welcome. 5 cents per entry. Do you even know where the fuck we're going? Laughed Ashley, looking up from her iPhone to squint at the seemingly endless cornfields. I have no fucking idea where I'm going, but there's this really great thing called GPS, and I've downloaded offline maps. Fuck, what the hell? Not even one bar? Teresa responded. She had wanted to text her friends that they were safely on the way, but the last place she got signal was a whole state away, it seemed. Sweetheart, we'll get there when we get there. Even if we do have to go through buttfuck nowhere to get there. I mean, shit, have you even seen a building since that last rest area? Ashley asked as she glared at the surrounding stalks of cornfields. All I know is that Joe and Kathleen are expecting us by 4:30, and it's already 3:45. I mean, let's be real, they're your friends first. I mean, Kathleen is great, but Joe, Teresa began, but Ashley cut her off. Yeah, we all know how much you hate Joe, and listen, I'm right with you, brother. Joe can suck a fat one, but I'm sure both of them will understand if we're a few minutes late. The ceremony doesn't even start till 9 p.m., because apparently my friends are vampires. I'd say based on how long we've been driving that we're either an hour away from our destination or you're an hour into Nebraska going the wrong way. With this, Ashley shot a wink towards Teresa, and Teresa's scowl vanished. The KIA pulled close to the only thing that Teresa and Ashley had seen standing other than corn and farmhouses for the last 20 minutes. A sign that proclaimed, "Now entering Maize. Population 400. Teresa breathed a sigh of relief. Finally, her luck was starting to turn. She could pull into town, use someone's phone, and find out, more importantly, where in the fuck they were. But also tell Joe and Kathleen that they were hopelessly turned around. Oh, thank God. I think I'm going to pull into the next driveway, and one of these country bumpkins ought to have a phone. Teresa raised her eyebrow at Ashley, whose previously thought of as infinite grin had transformed into a look of worry so grim that it would have been comical under other circumstances. What's up, babe? I haven't seen you frown like that since the last time a dog died in a movie. Teresa put her hand on Ashley's knee, who recoiled at her touch as if waking up from a deep sleep. What? Oh, fuck. Sorry, hun. I just kinda disassociated for a second. Something about that sign really creeped me out. I mean, the fucking town name is Maize, and it's covered in corn? Sounds like the start to some dog-shit horror movie exclusive to Tubi. Ashley laughed, but her face remained stoic and thoughtful. I know. It's like they just thought to themselves that they were already a stereotype. Might as well make it even worse. Oh shit, nice. A driveway. I'm gonna pull in and ask for directions. Teresa beamed and pulled into a long driveway. The driveway framed by rows and rows of cornfields on either side. The driveway was gravel. As the KIA rolled over the rocks, the tires made a crunchy sound that gave Ashley goosebumps. Sounded like what anxiety sounds like in her head. About 50 feet down the driveway, a single red mailbox stood on the right side of the driveway. Teresa slowed to look at it. A mailbox by itself wasn't strange, but in the middle of the driveway, about another 100 feet up, the Kia rolled by another mailbox on the left side. This time, this one was blue, though. These people fucking love mail, don't they? Ashley joked, but a sinking feeling had creeped into her chest, tightening up like a vice. A sickening, fluttery feeling in her stomach. I'm gonna get to the house up there, and I'm going to get those directions, and then we are leaving this fuck-ass town behind. Teresa barked, as her grip on the steering wheel tightened, turning her knuckles white. The KIA pulled another 200 feet to the end of the driveway, a green mailbox standing directly in the center of the driveway this time. Teresa and Ashley stopped the KIA and waited for a few seconds before Ashley pushed the stop engine button, grabbing the fob from the center console and exiting the car. Hey, Ashley, get back here. Oh, fuck. This is like top 10 on worst ideas, and it was mine this time, so I can't even complain. Teresa sighed as she reluctantly opened her driver's side door. Ashley was already halfway up what remained of the driveway, leading up to a modest house, picture perfect in its quaint country setting. The shutters were blue, along with the copper roof. Norman Rockwell would have adored this house, with its covered porch wrapping around the house. 2 serene hand-built rocking chairs flanked a screen door and a blue well-aged door. As Teresa caught up to Ashley to mount the steps of the porch, the telltale creaks of the wood and the signs of repeated staining were evident. This house had to be around 100 years old, but the wood was still holding up extremely well. The door swung open to reveal a warm and kind-looking elderly woman wearing a long blue skirt and an apron covering a very modest white blouse. She beamed at them, and in an old Irish voice straight out of a cartoon asked, "Oh my heavens, a couple of lasses lost out in the corn. Happens all the time out here in Maize. Come on in, and we'll see if we can get you situated." With that, the lady had turned and let the screen door shut behind her, but noticeably left the big door fully open. Teresa and Ashley shrugged and stepped inside. Forget Norman Rockwell's wet dream. This house was a Pinterest board of a white lady brought to life. Hundreds of cross stitches of corn-based puns scattered the walls, along with kitschy phrases like live, laugh, love. But what was strange is the love was scratched out. Someone had scribbled the word corn. Teresa shot a tentative glance toward the kitchen where the lady had retreated, and grimly turned her head and regarded Ashley. To her dismay, the crazy bitch was grinning from ear to ear. Teresa smacked her in the boob. Ashley cried out, "Ow! What the fuck, Teresa?" Ashley shot back, looking genuinely hurt. "Why the fuck are you smiling? We're about to be chopped up and served for dinner to her Irish-born inbred sons. Do you see the creepy shit in this place?" Teresa responded, keeping her voice low so that the woman couldn't hear. "Everything all right, dearies?" They heard the old lady shout from the kitchen. "Fine, everything is fine. We'll be in the kitchen momentarily," Teresa called, turning back to Ashley and grabbing her by both arms. "I don't fucking like this, but let's go get murdered because we took a wrong turn." And with that, dragged Ashley toward the kitchen, giving her butt a swift kick on the way by. As they entered the kitchen, both Teresa and Ashley's jaws both dropped simultaneously. The sheer amount of corn-based kitchen decorations, bread boxes, fridge magnets, towels, it was actually a bit disturbing. I mean, who the fuck likes corn this much? Teresa thought to herself, and beamed the thought to Ashley with a look. Ashley's eyes responded in turn. Sorry, we're a wee bit focused on corn around here. Did you know that we have a world-famous corn maze? We've been written about in 2 separate magazines, and even featured on a blog. The name is Sally, and it's a pleasure to have 2 potential Maize corn customers in my kitchen. I understand you must be incredibly eager to leave, but the maze only lasts a few minutes, Sally said in a cheery voice. She was facing the back window at the sink. She said all this without even glancing around at them. I'm not sure, Sally. I think we just need to use your phone. I don't seem to be getting any signal here, and we just have to let our friends know we're going to be a little late. I appreciate the offer, but if we could just use your phone, Teresa began before being cut off. Oh, dearies, I have a fantastic idea. You 2 go and solve the maze, and you get to use my phone. Or you lose, and I'll pull your fingernails off one at a time. Then I'll get creative. Sally's voice was like dark glass, a deep contrast to her bright and cheery voice previously used. What the fuck? What did you just say, you crazy old bitch? Ashley began before Sally turned on her, slapping her across the face faster than either girl could have ever assumed a woman of her age could move. You will respect me in my own home, young lady. One more cuss and you won't have the option to do the maze. You'll just be locked in the basement with the rest of the bad children who didn't accept the maze. It's an own hour to have the chance to witness the power of the maze. Now, if you'll just return to your car, my husband Dan will see you to the maze. Remember, certain death awaits if you don't solve it. Tune your radio to 106.9 and Dan will explain more of the rules to you, dearies. Now get the fuck out of my house, you little whores. Ashley and Teresa cursed her out all the way to the door, but were glad to leave this waking nightmare. They sprinted to the KIA, their hands shaking as they turned the car on and began backing down the driveway as fast as they could. About 100 feet down the driveway, an old red Ford F-150 pulled out silently from the corn in front of them. As Teresa was staring out the back window, Ashley shouted, "Holy fuck! There's a truck following us! I'm fucking scared, Teresa! I'm really fucking scared!" Ashley screamed, tears streaming down her face. Holy Jesus! Is that a log across the driveway? The driver of the truck, seemingly the aforementioned Dan, pointed to the opening in the corn and mimed turning up the radio. Tess, tune the radio to 106.9. Maybe it'll help us get out of this fucked up situation. Ashley sighed. Teresa had no choice but to turn into the car-sized opening in the corn and tune the KIA's radio to 106.9. Go! Afternoon, and welcome to Father Dan's world-famous corn maze. As you keep driving, you'll be tempted to get out of your vehicle. Please, avoid doing this until absolutely necessary. Once the elders decide you're ready to leave your car, you'll do so. Also remember that this ride costs 50 cents, 25 cents per person. Please make sure to toss your payment out of your windows. Please don't worry about us being able to find it in the stocks. The shucked ones will gather the coins in due time. Please also note that until you solve the maze, no cell phones or telecommunications will work. If you'd like to keep calling with no bars, feel free. You will be punished, however, for every rule you break. I'll guide you through the first little bit of the maze, but after that, you're on your own. Will you make it through the trial? Will you suffer instead? Only time will tell. The voice boomed from the radio, Teresa and Ashley breaking into full sobs as they made their way through the first passage. The fields sharply were cut for a turn, just wide enough to fit the KIA through. What lay ahead was a series of turns beyond them. They inched up, cautiously at first. There's a minimum speed limit of 3 miles per hour. It's to ensure the sanctity of the sacred maze, boomed Farmer Dan from the radio, startling Teresa and Ashley back from their shell-shocked state. Ashley wiped the trails of tears from her cheeks and looked at Teresa grimly. I'm so sorry. I never should have invited you to this stupid wedding. It's not even like Joe and Kathleen are worth this shit. Yeah, maybe Tim and Justin, but not Joe and Kathleen. Teresa giggled, all the while staring intensely at the speedometer to maintain the required 3 miles per hour. Keeping it in the queer family, eh? I should have known you'd make it about you, gah. Ashley laughed, but suddenly her eyes shot open, comically large as she screamed, "Tess, look out!" In front of the KIA, a man in tattered clothing stood partially crouched over what looked like another person. The other person's stomach was split open, and the man appeared to be digging through it with his slick blood-covered hands. Blood caked his mouth, nose, and even his forehead as the first piece of intestine rose to his lips. Tess saw this vignette with almost slow motion, swerving the KIA, clipping the side of the man with a grunt and slamming the brakes. Was that man fucking eating someone? What the fuck is this place? Tess cried out, trying to back the Kia out of its divot that the tires had made in the soft earth. It was useless. The grooves were too deep. All right, time to leave your vehicle. Be sure to beware of other customers. Some are feral. Good luck, and we'll see you for some corn-flavored ice cream at the finish. Teresa groaned and opened her driver's side door and gaped at the body lying in the road, torn apart to a degree where a little longer, and it would stop being a person, only meat. She, however, didn't see the cannibalistic man. This was definitely cause for alarm. She turned around to see Ashley looking dazed, instinctively pulling her door open. Because Ashley was looking at Teresa, she didn't notice that the man from the road was standing by the passenger door, grinning while blood dripped down his chin to his tattered clothes. "Ashley, come out this way! Over the shifter! Go! Lock the door if you can!" Teresa began, but with that, the door that Ashley partially leaned against to swing open, causing Ashley, now wide-eyed and petrified, to wave her arms in front of her for balance. Teresa sprinted forward and leapt through to grab Ashley by the front of her Beatles shirt before this grotesque savage could. She yanked Ashley through the open driver door and onto the soft earth. The man's hands and lower arms were also caked in blood as he lunged forward, his teeth grinding together as his hands only hit empty air. He shrieked, grabbing the seat and launching through the cab of the car at the sprawling girls, who had landed in a heap on the other side of the car door. At the last second, Ashley swung the driver's side door closed, firmly catching the man's rushing face. The man's nose shattered, and he shrieked again, muffled by the closed windows as he slammed his face over and over against the window. As he collapsed backward, hemorrhaging, he gargled on his own blood and choked, finally dying as his eyes rolled back. Teresa and Ashley were spared the sight of it, but with the passenger door still open, they could hear his wheezing, trembling breaths and the way he choked on his own blood. Teresa held Ashley in her arms, Ashley's head on her chest as they both sobbed. A gunshot rang out in the crisp, late afternoon air, startling Ashley and Teresa out of their brief, tender moment. With that, they were up. Teresa opened up the KIA door and hesitated, reaching over top of the dead man, crumpled across the front seats. With a disgusted face, she snagged her coat and Ashley's, tossing them to Ashley as she also grabbed her Swiss Army knife and cell phone. She raised her phone to her face and winced at the battery level. 6%. Come on, babe. We've got to get moving before the dark comes. We've got maybe another 20 minutes before it's full dark. I don't particularly want to find out what comes out at night if cannibalistic psychos and fucked up corn mazes are what happens during the day, Teresa muttered, wiping her tears from her eyes as she lightly grabbed Ashley's arm, pulling her forward through the winding pattern that lay beyond them. After walking for around 10 minutes through zigzags, entire sections of the maze that were straight until a sharp turn broke the pattern, Ashley and Teresa saw a building begin to take shape on the horizon, sitting in front of a cresting sun, dipping below the 8-foot stalks. The building appeared to be a silo of some sort, a large cylindrical roof that came to a point. As they neared the structure, a ladder that led to the ceiling began to be visible. "We've got to climb to the top of that ladder. See how big this goddamn maze is," Ashley said as she pulled into the opening in the maze where the silo stood. In front of the silo, a yellow mailbox with its flag up. Ashley hesitantly pulled the mailbox open, grabbing a note. She nervously glanced up at Teresa, who slowly nodded. "Congratulations on making it to the first checkpoint. Inside this silo, which is unlocked and will lock for you to remain safe, you both will find provisions, bedding, food, and water. No charging cables for those pesky phones, though. Don't want you spoiling the maze for the rest of the customers. You can hide out the night, or try your luck to make it further towards the end. I should warn you about the ones that come out at night, though. The corn has taken them, they have no mind left. They exist to spread the maize. The elders are all of our parents, ancestors, and equals, yet the shucked ones are the only true children of the elders. See you bright and early in the morning. Farmer Dan, Ashley, and Teresa wordlessly stumbled their way to the door of the silo, swinging it open with a loud metallic groan. Inside was a bright, well-lit area, with granola bars, bottles of water, MREs, a small camping cook set, and one large cot with clean sheets and blankets placed neatly on top. Covering the walls were ornate paintings and carvings of corn, rows with people grinning, peeking their heads around the stalks. These paintings reached the very top of the 50-foot silo. It even appeared as though they covered the ceiling of it. I figure we can wait it out in here tonight. Then tomorrow morning, we can get our bearings and find out how truly fucked we are, Teresa said as she swung the door closed, twisting the vault-style lock into place. You know, as shitty as this trip has been, I don't know if it's as bad as that trip we took to Myrtle Beach and we both got food poisoning. You blacked out, you puked so much, and I didn't get it until halfway home. I didn't even make it 20 minutes down the road before Ashley began. You yarfed all over the dashboard. I scrubbed that fucker for hours, and I still couldn't get that blue stain out of the plastic. You had that blue slushy, even though your stomach wasn't feeling good. Teresa laughed as they reached the bed, propping the pillows up to sit up. They held each other, slow, heavy tears streaming down both of their faces unnoticed. They were still laughing and crying when Ashley said, "If we get out of this, I promise I'll be better. I won't ever take you for granted, ever again. This whole fucked up situation has just made me realize that if we can handle this shit, we can definitely handle whatever else our life has in store for us." Ashley and Teresa held each other, kissing lightly, before both of them were lightly snoring. When they woke up at around 7 a.m., light streamed through the vents in the silo's roof, hitting their faces. "All right, gather as much of this stuff as we can hold comfortably, and let's get our bearings," Teresa shouted and clapped her hands. Ashley winced at the volume. This was a good indicator of how each partner dealt with the mornings. They got dressed, even finding a storage box underneath the cot with a full change of clothes for each of them. The clothes were all white, simple flannel shirts and thick wool pants. Both Teresa and Ashley were thankful for that, as the temperatures were frigid on their evening walk the previous night. As they buttoned up their new shirts, they glanced around at the paintings and realized that the outfits the people in the corn were wearing matched the ones they stood in. This is some Wicker Man horse shit. Not even fucking surprised at this point. Ashley laughed as she swung open the silo door. The door was suddenly flung open as something outside the silo grabbed the door from her hands. Two long, bony hands with sharp nails swung the door even further open before a grinning woman stepped out from behind the door. "See the rouse. See their beauty, and know that all will one day belong to the Corps." Teresa lunged forward and plunged her Swiss Army knife into the neck of the woman who had begun to grasp at Ashley. The woman gargled, blood slowly dripping from the puncture the small knife made. Teresa pulled out and plunged again, and again, blood beginning to spurt and then finally spray as she hit the jugular. "Save the Manson speech for someone else." Ashley spat at the wide-eyed woman before kicking the woman in the stomach. With one fluid motion, Ashley stomped on the woman's face as she hit the soft earth in front of the silo. A loud crunch could be heard as the woman's face caved in under Ashley's Doc Martens. Teresa climbed the ladder on the side of the silo to the very top, standing precariously on the edge of the ladder, staring out at the miles and miles of endless maize. It was almost unbelievable how much maize there was without end. Still, Teresa did begin to see a pathway to what appeared to be a road of some sort. Teresa had counted her lucky stars that she was once in Girl Scouts. She remembered when she was around 7, they tasked a volunteer of the girls in her troop to climb a tree to get their bearings without a compass. They told them that it was easy to estimate walking distance and sun location. None of the other girls wanted to climb. They were either too worried about heights or simply didn't want to get their skirts dirty. Teresa had confidently strode up to the biggest tree she could find and climbed as if she had done it dozens of times. She thought back to the strong breeze you felt at that distance up in a tree, the wind swinging you back and forth like a metronome. The nervous feeling in her stomach was very similar to what she felt now, but she remembered a trick to stop the nauseous feeling. If she clicked on every swing of the tree like a metronome, it would help the nerves. She always did it subconsciously, even if the thing she was climbing didn't swing in the breeze. All right, there's a few different paths, but I see one that looks promising. It's wedged between. Teresa squinted, trying to see which color of mailboxes flanking the maze path. It looked like blue and green, but at this distance, it was hard to fully tell. Well, I'm sure we'll figure out what color they are when we get to them, Teresa finished, clicking as she stepped down the ladder and jumping the last 8 or so feet down to Ashley, who half supported her to brace her fall. They continued on through the maze, occasionally coming across half-digested corpses along the way. These bodies they tried to drag into the thicker corn as much as they could. As they did, they could see the corn envelope the bodies, grasping with its tall stalks like fingers, dragging the bodies into the earth, springing up fresh, smaller stalks beside where the body had been buried. So, I guess this is what they meant by the shucked ones, Teresa thought to herself as she glanced over at Ashley. Ashley's eyes were rolled back in her head, and drool started foaming at her lips. Teresa grabbed Ashley and gently laid her down on the ground. Ashley's hair lay floating around her on the ground, but no matter how much Teresa gently shook her, the seizure kept happening. Teresa couldn't think of anything else and wound up her hand to deliver an open-handed slap to Ashley's face. Her hand struck Ashley's face, ringing out an echo that rang throughout the maze. A few growling grunts followed this from seemingly far away as Ashley regained her consciousness, sitting up abruptly and coughing out the foam that had begun to gather in her mouth. "Whoa, what the fuck was that?" Ashley responded, rubbing her face absent-minded. "I was afraid you were gonna become one of the feral ones. You were seizing, foaming at the mouth and shit," Teresa stated, pulling Ashley in for a long embrace. A loud snap of the dry stalks close by broke their union as they both scanned the surrounding maze wide-eyed. The sound was coming from seemingly every side of the maze. First slow footsteps, then speeding up to a sprint. Teresa and Ashley sprinted forward at this point, glancing back around to see 4 of the feral ones giving chase. "Let's fucking go! Hurry up!" Teresa shouted as Ashley began to lag behind. Ashley quickened her pace, but didn't notice a small divot in the dirt. Her foot found it, and she sprawled forward, her hands reaching forward to brace her fall. Ashley's face connected with the earth first, making a soft plop as the feral ones cut the distance between them to only around 20 feet. Teresa lunged forward and stepped in front of Ashley, who groggily lifted her head from the dirt, her caked face dripping blood from a gash in her forehead that dripped into the drying mud. The first feral one reached Teresa, who was waiting with the Swiss Army knife raised. The feral one knocked Teresa, sprawling, clawing toward Ashley, and growling a guttural, primal scream of rage. Teresa grabbed the ankle of the feral one, pulling hard as the feral one also went sprawling, uttering a cry of surprise so cartoon-like that it would have been funny under any other circumstances. Teresa began to grapple with the one on the ground with her, ignoring the scratches and cuts the feral one dug into her, while it defended itself against Teresa's tiny little utility knife. As they were occupied, the 3 that were shortly behind leapt onto Ashley, her dazed expression quickly turning into a look of panic as they landed on her. What Ashley felt first was a pain in her stomach that was unlike anything she had ever felt in her life, a burning sensation as the feral one's hands plunged into her stomach, pulling out intestines and organs while Ashley looked on, horrified as she felt one of them bite her. Teresa stabbed the first of the 3 feral ones in the neck, but shortly stopped seeing how occupied they were with Ashley, whose light had vanished from her eyes. She lay staring up at the sky, unmoving, a look of horror on her face. Teresa glanced toward the opening that lay around. She lifted her head to determine the location of the sun, which had begun to set, casting an orange tinge to everything around her. With tears beginning to pour down her face, she sprinted toward the opening. The feral ones made no move or even seemed to notice Teresa's escape. Teresa continued walking through the various turns, glancing back over the rows to make sure she was still on track. She hadn't wanted to continue without Ashley, but she knew she'd meet the same fate if she didn't. There was a small fleeting moment where she stood in the middle of the maze, Swiss Army knife up to her throat, ready to end it. A small voice spoke up inside Teresa's mind. "Come on, babe. Don't let my death be in vain." "Do you think I'd want you to just give up? I mean, I gave my life for you to be free, and you're just gonna call it quits? Look up there. It's another silo. You've made it this far. Remember that camping stove? I bet it'd make a really good explosive device." Ashley grinned inside the Ressa's mind. Teresa calmly walked into the silo, dragging the stove into the tall rows, opening up the valves on the propane tank that lay connected to the stove. When was the last time it had rained in Nebraska? It had been a particularly dry summer, and this fall wasn't any different. Teresa pulled her small Bic lighter out of her pocket and held it toward the rushing air of the propane. The spark ignited the tank, which exploded outwards, spraying shrapnel into the rows. The stalks went up with a whoosh, enveloping Teresa and the dozens of shucked ones, who first clawed their way out of the dirt and then sprinted toward Teresa, their skin peeling and popping kernels as they burnt up, sizzling as they did so. Teresa giggled while her flesh seared and thought, "Fucking popcorn!" There's no telling how long or how intensely that fire burned for, but Farmer Dan sat with his hands on his knees, assessing the damage to his wondrous bounty. No time like the present. And with that, he started sprinkling the seeds in the design that the voices were telling him to. It was shaping up to be another amazing year. Thank you for watching Nightmare Proof. If you enjoyed these stories, don't forget to like, subscribe, and share to keep the nightmares alive. Have a story of your own? Send it in, and you may hear it here next time. Until then, sleep well if you can.